Hello and welcome to the Badger Politic. I am Scott Stearns.
This is Paul Sickle. Let's talk.
Hey, Paul. Good to see you.
Good.
What's going on in the world?
Well, the president thinks he's above the law, and, well, the fact of the matter is, he is.
Kind of is. He had the interview with ABC News tonight. That's all...
George Stephanopoulos, who himself is no stranger to the White House, nor campaigns for that White House.
Right.
Yeah. And, I mean, and people always said Bill Clinton was so ethically challenged.
Right.
And here, Stephanopoulos is interviewing Trump about what he would do if he gets information,
opposition research,
opponents from
research, as
not the right, from other countries, right?
Donald Trump Jr. was testifying before the Senate committee today, so he was asked about that and the fact that he wasn't charged with a crime, and so the whole hypothetical about if you're offered information from a foreign government that's in the eyes of the president. That's not election interference. That's just information, and why would you call the FBI? We should just listen.
If it was bad enough, he said he would.
If it's bad enough, but that's after listening,
I'm just
I guess.
saying this
After
is what the man said.
Yeah.
He also said that everybody in Congress does it too. And I actually do think there's maybe just a little bit of truth to that. Every great lie has a kernel of truth.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear some opposite research about your opponent, and you find out the source. You usually want to hear the research first, and then you'll worry about the source
later. Make the assessment.
I mean, and this is where Trump actually stands strong on political footing, is that, like my Uncle Rick would say, this is what politicians do. At least Trump's being honest and saying that's what he'll do because he's just another politician. That's basically what he's saying. And how can you fault him for that? What's refreshing about it is that he's being honest about it and not putting on the veneer of being above something.
Is it? Well,
I think that washes with a lot of American voters. And a lot of voters, period.
It does, but is that legit, or is it just playing into the cynicism that people have about how politicians operate? Because I don't think that that's how every congressman or every senator operates in terms of running a political campaign.
I think you're probably right. I mean, George Stephanopoulos pointed out that that's what Gore did. Gore got the briefing book on Bush. And somehow Trump tried to make some false distinction that a briefing book is different than Oppo research. What is it other than
that? That's exactly
And Gore reported to the FBI, and it was probably actually sent to Gore on purpose by the Bush campaign to try and catch him.
Yeah, that's speculation, but
the
bottom line is that they did end up with a briefing book from the Bush campaign, and they didn't use it. They called the FBI and they handed it over.
Or they might have perused it and then handed it over. My guess is that they didn't because they don't want to be forced to testify.
Well, I guess if you're Donald Trump, maybe that was a mistake by Gore. Maybe he would have won.
That's what Trump would say.
Yeah,
I was watching Bill Maher, who, frankly, I haven't been the biggest Bill Maher supporter or fan.
I enjoy his show.
He's growing on me. He was pointing out how Americans, what they really do is they vote for strength.
Yeah, well,
and that is a problem with what we are approaching. We're kind of like doing this leftist purity test, and we're kind of seeing that as strength and among us progressives. And I don't think that swing voters see it that way. If anything, it maybe plays into Trump's hand just a little bit more.
Okay, that's fair.
It lets us hand wring, and then it lets him say, the liberal media is coming after me.
Oh, yeah.
And
No,
blah, blah.
You're right.
And he'd be like, Al Gore had a briefing book, and
it plays, plays into his narrative.
Even though Al Gore turned into the FBI, whatever. Right?
For sure.
He might have even said that on purpose. Plus, he's trying to stick up for his son.
Well, yeah. Right.
That's actually where we can get him. Is the stuff about protecting the family.
Yep.
Americans hate that. They're okay with you trying to protect yourself, but they freaking hate it when you are like protecting family members, insiders. They do not like that. That is something Americans have a problem with, and I think it might be more uniquely American. We generally are conditioned to not like the concept of royalty, like explicitly.
Oh, yeah.
we like wealth, we like power, but we don't like handed down privilege.
Isn't that one of the reasons why Hillary lost?
Yeah,
is because you were dealing with a situation where you had, over the course of a couple of decades, you had 2 Bushes as president, and then you were on the cusp of having 2 Clintons as president over the course of a couple of decades.
And it's the same reason that the 47% comments by Romney pretty much doomed his candidacy when he probably was about to have a buzzer beater with Obama, and then
that kind of doomed it. So speaking of elections, we have this Democratic primary that is kind of starting to ramp up. We've got a debate in Miami coming up amongst all the Democratic candidates. So I think we should probably take inventory and see where we think things are going here. We've got, obviously, Joe Biden has been in the lead and on all the polls that are really on record. I mean, Bernie Sanders has been there consistently, but Elizabeth Warren is kind of creeping up. I think some of her work has paid off in terms of focusing on very specific proposals that she's been kind of putting out there piecemeal. As it stands now, she's getting some buzz.
Elizabeth Warren is looking more and more like an attractive candidate. There's no question. She still has her issues with the DNA test, and
she's made some missteps along the way. I think playing into Trump's hands on that, I think, was a mistake on her part.
Right. And she had the underwhelming performance in the re-election. She still won by 20 points, and one could say, well, Charlie Baker was getting
in Massachusetts.
It wasn't even a wave election. It's a Massachusetts election. All the Democrats were safe. And Charlie Baker, the Republican, was safe.
Yeah.
So it just cut down on her margins, but she was safe. But what have you? That has been a criticism of her. Are you kind of warming up yourself to Warren?
I'm just looking at the numbers and seeing the progress that she's made.
Yeah, it's impressive.
On her campaign. The thing with Warren is I think you have to look at how she stacks up amongst all the other female candidates. And she's definitely outperforming Harris, who is still in single digits. And then, down the line, you have Gillibrand and Klobuchar, which are not polling.
And that's a big deal because
very well.
Right, women will be the majority of the Democratic primary electorate by far.
Yeah.
Probably 60-40.
Well, I guarantee there will be a female candidate on the Democratic ticket, either at the top or at the bottom.
I still think Warren doesn't really register that well.
Well, I don't think she's the most charismatic candidate out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we come back to what happened in the state of Wisconsin last year. I mean, Tony Evers was not nearly the most charismatic candidate in the Democratic primary either.
That's right.
And he pulled it off.
That's absolutely right. Warren is actually kind of similar in the sense that technocrat, obviously even more of an intellectual. I mean, Evers is a pretty smart guy, but Warren is very smart.
Oh yeah. She's even if you disagree with her, you can't. I don't think you can fault her intelligence.
It's hard to disagree with her.
Yeah.
The only thing I really disagreed with up until now is her political instincts.
Mm-hmm.
But what she's starting to show is some better than maybe recently advertised political instincts.
Yeah. No, and that's why I'm saying her strategy early on has been to put out proposals very specific in terms of what they are going to do, not these broad-based hey, healthcare for all, or these bumper sticker slogans. No, she's put out proposals that are really into the nuts and bolts of how she wants to actually change stuff.
Now people hate policy. They like the goal. They don't like to see the gritty details of policy. And I've been to a lot of trainings on
in a Democratic primary
about this.
In a Democratic primary, though, if she wants to differentiate herself, it's especially when you have 25 people running. That's one way to make herself.
Yeah, I'm just
distinct.
A little nervous about nominating somebody that's going to be a policy wonk.
Yeah,
I mean the phrase one pollster said is, "We lose elections, and what we have to tell our candidates is by getting too into policies.
Yeah,
get your policy out of the way. It's unsightly."
So the first Democratic debates with all these folks will take place in Miami on June 26th and 27th. There'll be two days worth of debates, given the number of candidates that are involved. So we'll know kind of how things stack up probably in a few more weeks. So closer to home, we just had the Wisconsin Democratic Convention, and so what news did we learn out of that, Paul? We have a new head of the state party.
Yeah,
Mr. Ben Wickler.
Ben Wickler was elected, and he's now the state party chair.
From the previously worked for MoveOn.org.
Right. He ran against David Bowen. Mm-hmm. Before him, in the state party chair, was Martha Lanning.
Yes.
So the sense I got was that I didn't go to the convention, I didn't vote, but I was happy to see Wickler win. I like David Bowen a lot, by the way, but I think David Bowen, is a sitting lawmaker and has a full-time job representing his constituents.
He's got a full plate.
He also has a bright political future ahead. I think for the party chair, you don't necessarily need a great politician.
Yeah.
You need more of a technocrat. My understanding is that powers that be, so to speak, and I mean that like in a nice way, actually, pretty much. Mm-hmm. They kind of pushed his candidacy. There was a sense that Wisconsin didn't have a fully operationally professional Democratic Party.
Well, and the importance of some of these races has been made clear this week with the Wisconsin Supreme Court rulings, which were unsurprisingly 4-3.
Went bad.
To overturn the rulings against the lame duck laws. So
they're
lame duck laws are pretty much, I think,
except early voting.
Yeah, there were a couple exceptions, but
that's actually really important.
It is important, but by and large, the lame duck laws are going back into effect.
So are we out of, Scott, do you know if we're out of the Affordable Care Act lawsuit that Evers took us out of it, Evers and Culp took us out of it?
I haven't heard any differently. I mean, I'm assuming that
we're no longer opposing the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
Unless this lawsuit somehow makes us
kind of undoes what the actions that.
But isn't what's done is done?
I believe it's a situation that what's done is done, and now we're just moving forward.
Well, that would be great.
Or moving backward, however you want to say.
I do know they made Evers give those people their jobs back.
Oh, the appointees? Yeah.
Evers initially,
80
when the ruling came down, right, there was a bunch of 80 appointees, and Evers rescinded all of them, and then he reappointed the 72 that weren't full-time career jobs, and he just fired the rest of them.
Yeah,
which I think is right, because they were appointed by Walker and a lame duck. They weren't duly appointed, so they should be fired. So if what was done is done, if you're fired, you're fired. How did they get their jobs back? They did get their jobs back.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of Walker appointees, on the Public Service Commission, all sorts of really important things. Yeah. Deep state. You have the deep state for Walker.
Well, it's the
talk to Uncle
Walker
Rick
deep
about
state.
that. No, it's true though. You
absolutely
do have it. Uncle Rick would be loath to admit it. In fact, you should interview him about that. I know he wants to come on the podcast next week.
We definitely want to have him in a few weeks. We're nearing.
He's getting ready for Flag Day right now, and after that's over,
is that an important holiday for Uncle Rick?
Well, it's Father's Day coming up, which Happy Father's Day.
Yes,
it's always a little iffy in the Rick household on that one.
Nice. So there'll be more to come on the state of Supreme Court. We've got a Supreme Court election next year, and that's going to be an important race. And then the Democratic primary we talked about. Lots of news.
All the muni races.
Lots of things.
We talked about Chris Abele, Tom Merritt, all the good stuff.
Lots of stuff in motion.
We'll try to make these more interesting soon enough. We'll bring Uncle Rick back. That ought to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
In fact, I think we're near the 1-year anniversary of the Rick roll.
Well, yeah, and we're nearing episode 100. This is episode 97.
97. All right, there we go.
So there's we're nearing the big 100. We'll have to do something special for that.
All right. And by the way, the Brewers won.
They won in 14 innings tonight.
We cried in our beer a few weeks ago about the Bucks.
Yes.
Season ending unceremoniously after pretty enjoyable campaign, I think all would say.
Well, just like the Bucks kind of took the mantle when the Brewers faltered in the playoffs last year, the Brewers have
They're
kind of
picking each other up.
Yeah.
The Milwaukee teams are
it's therapeutic.
going full circle.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's definitely helping. So
Yeah, throw in the Packers and give us a Democratic victory and bring us back to blue, and we're in business.
yeah, I like it.
All right.
Forward.